As with every episode of The Mandalorian Season 3 so far, the Twitter account Cryptic4KCal has revealed next week's runtime, Chapter 20, Season 3 Episode 4 next Wednesday, and it's surprisingly short, just 30 minutes and 39 seconds in length. But as Yoda says, size matters not, and I've always been a quality over quantity sort of girl. We should not panic though, because the last time we got an episode this short was Season 1 Chapter 2, The Child, which to this day, at least in my opinion, remains one of the most fun, memorable and iconic episodes of the series so far. That first season possessed so much magic and innocence, and just to refresh your memory, a wonderful episode by Rick Famuyiwa, short and sweet. The episode did not suffer whatsoever from its 32-minute runtime, so we don't need to worry. I trust the creatives on the season like Jon and Dave to know how to pace the season correctly, and we just had nearly an hour-long episode, The Convert, so all is fine. The upcoming episode is directed by Carl Weathers, which as you know has gotten me super excited as I am such a massive fan of his Season 2 masterpiece, and I do call it that, The Siege. It is expected that this episode takes place on Nevarro, heavily featuring Greef Karga, and it's the one where the Mandos take out the pirates of Gorian Shard. Din is going to give his old friend Greef Karga some help, and we're also going to see the Anzellans once again. Are we going to see another adorable hug between Grogu and a droidsmith? I don't think so. The last one didn't appreciate it. He said no squeezy, bad baby. And so now guys, a big rumour that's emerged over the last couple of days. If you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to turn away now. This rumour comes from Chris Breezy on a Making Star Wars stream, and he said he is 99.9% sure that Cobb Vanth appears later in the season, and he is going to become the Marshal of Nevarro, which was a theory I put forward a few weeks ago. It's going to come to fruition. Greef Karga needs a Marshal, and if we return to Tatooine, does that mean we might see Boba Fett? Fingers crossed, you never know. Marshal Cobb Vanth, he's gonna have his modifications, and while you might be saying, why would he ever leave Tatooine? Well, if the money is right, that might be a new opportunity. Now, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, Chapter 20 is co-written between Jon and Dave, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, so it's reasonable to assume an Ahsoka connection is inbound, something Rosario Dawson teased on Instagram. In either case, as we approach the halfway mark, the next episode is no doubt going to set up some big things to come. I'm super excited guys, share your thoughts in the comments down below. In other Mandalorian news, Making Star Wars have a new scoop. This is huge. So in the past they told us about the Praetorian Guards, the Darksaber, Bo-Katan, the Mythosaur, a little bit about Christopher Lloyd's character and so on, but now they've revealed some of Moff Gideon's other troops, his special forces. A new type of trooper reminiscent of the First Order Stormtroopers, but also the Imperial Supercommandos from Star Wars Rebels. A tad different though, because just like the Proto-Praetorian Guards, these troopers have visors, which are quite Mando-like. They say the undershirt is greyish, with a white chest plate, very similar to the new Praetorian Guards. The gloves are black with black pants, knee pads and boots, which are not unlike a scout trooper. And there is also Phase 2 clone influence. They look very badass indeed. Making Star Wars reiterates we're gonna see Moff Gideon in his black Mandalorian suit, the full armor with a helmet too, and they say he is a bit like Gar Saxon, in the sense that once upon a time, he too was a Mandalorian, one who wanted imperial reign of the home planet. Making Star Wars also reveal, quote, we're gonna see various Imperial Remnant factions left over post-Return of the Jedi, so not just Moff Gideon. And he reinstates that Gideon is the main antagonist of the season. We're not going to see Thrawn. In fact, they say, we're going to learn that Thrawn does not like Gideon. He doesn't think much of him. And as I've been saying over and over again, the two of them do not work on the same side. They do not share the same objectives. According to the leaks, Thrawn is out there in the unknown, in the new beyond, working on a Night Sister army, with the ultimate goal of protecting the Chiss ascendancy, whereas Gideon is the one more concerned with what's going on in this show, Kalevala, the Darksaber, wanting revenge on Din, and what we saw in the last episode. It may have seemed like a Thrawn move with the TIE interceptors, but these reports are saying it's Gideon. He's probably gotten stronger since he escaped, and may be working with other warlords. Let's wait and see. Now, while The Mandalorian Season 3 Episode 4 is going to be a bit shorter than normal, by comparison, The Bad Batch Season 2 Episode 14 is 26 minutes and 25 seconds in length. And so finally, for Mandalorian news, Dave Filoni sat down with The Wrap to discuss the future of the show, and during the interview he teases the very strong possibility of an Endgame-style event, something that brings all of these shows together, all the Mandoverse shows, The Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Book of Boba Fett, Skeleton Crew, and maybe more. In his own words, he said the following: "The story by definition is The Mandalorian, and speaks to that part of the Star Wars saga that we're now telling specifically about Djarin and Grogu, but they've pulled into their orbit many other Mandalorians as well, namely Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan, and I think it really starts raising a lot of questions about the way, and what is the way really. It's an interesting way to think about it. I tend to think as we've been working on The Mandalorian and then writing Ahsoka, and then Jon Watts came in with Skeleton Crew, there is an entire period that is post-Return of the Jedi, and I look at that period which is before The Force Awakens, around 30 years of time. He says we're really building a very slow ecosystem of characters and politics and events, and they may or may not expand in a bigger way as we begin to add more shows and more characters to it. The good thing is we're all talking creatively together about where these stories are going, and I love whiteboards. I whiteboard everything with timelines. They always start with the Phantom Menace, and they always go out to the Rise of Skywalker. So basically, it's a huge roadmap of 30 years in the timeline, and we're seeing the slow build-up and context in these shows. Dave also addresses bringing more characters from the animated shows into live action. He's done so with Ahsoka, Cad Bane, Bo-Katan. In the Ahsoka show, we're going to see Sabine Wren, Hera Syndulla, and more. He acknowledges that more are definitely on the table, but at this stage, he's playing coy and only giving non-answers. In his own words, he said, "At the end of the day, I've been very happy with the ones that have gone over. There may or may not be more in Ahsoka if that's your thing. If you're excited about that, I'm just saying that one might have a few more, which makes sense by the way. As you know, I wrote it. You can't fault me there." And so finally guys, a fun fact about the taxi driver droid that we saw in Chapter 19. He was voiced by Dylan Furshine, who was an editor on Solo: A Star Wars Story, The Mandalorian, and the Book of Boba Fett. His character design was based on the concept art of C-3PO by Ralph McQuarrie. And did you know he mentioned a whole bunch of very interesting locations, some from the expanded universe. He mentions the Skydome Botanical Gardens, which comes from the Jedi Academy Trilogy Volume 1, Jedi Search. He mentions the Mysis Blossoms from Star Wars Galaxy's Rage of the Wookiees, the Galactic Museum from Han Solo and the Lost Legacy, the Holographic Museum of Extinct Animals from Jedi Academy Trilogy Volume 2. We also see it in Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Last Stand on Ord Mantell. And finally the Manta Bog of Malastare, which is from Wizards of the Coast, Coruscant and the Core Worlds Guidebook. Some really awesome stuff there. So share your thoughts on all the news we covered in today's video. If you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. May the Force be with you always.